Call this meeting to order.
You want to sit down?
It stops. Bow your head, please. Lord, we come to you. We're hurting as a community again. Losing 2 students. Lord, we seek your direction. As the leader, I seek your direction on how to navigate through this in such a small community. When we lose these old ones that we love, these younger ones. And Lord, my heart just goes out, and our heart goes out to those families. That while we are discussing business tonight that we believe is important, it is. It's just not near what they're going through. Please use us, everyone in this room in our school, to support these families through this time. Please bless this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Jackson County Board of Education, where we will discuss the business and financial needs of the district. Later on, we will enter into executive session to discuss legal and personnel matters. This time, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to add the following items to consent agenda. Items 7D, 1 through 6, 9 and 10. Item 7E, 2, 3, and 5. Item 7F, 1 and 2. 7G, 1 and 3 through 5. Item I, 1 and 2. Item J, number 1. Item K, 1 through 10. Item L, 3 and 8. Item M, 1 through 29, and 31 through 33. And items N, 1 through 19.
Okay, you've heard consent agenda in the form of motion. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dickerson. In favor? No. And motion to approve tonight's agenda. Motion by Mr. Dickerson, second by Ms. Peterson. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda and remove item N11, approving the middle school travel request. And we'd like to add N20, approved travel request to the massive fall 2022 leadership conference.
Okay, so we have a more.
And 7G6 to approve new employee recommendations to Kelly Tech.
Okay, so read the motions again.
So we have the first one is to remove N11, approve Bankley Middle School travel request. The second two will be to add N20, approved travel request to Massa Fall 2022 Leadership Conference. The last one to add 7G6 to approve new employee recommendation for Katie Tech.
Discussion on amendments. All in favor? No. We're making a motion to approve the agenda. All any further discussion? All in favor? No. Minutes. Jack, will we on minutes?
We're okay.
Motion to approve item 6A, September 12th, 2022 meeting minutes. Motion by Ms. Peterson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Powell. Discussion. All in favor? No. Item 6B, approved September 19th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Dobson, second by Mr. Dickerson. Discussion. All in favor? No. We usually have our recognitions before the board meeting because we have so many. This evening, it's no different. The diversity we have in our school district with our recognitions shows through. Tonight we're recognizing some students for National Merit semifinalists. We're recognizing the coach this evening and a teacher, an outstanding teacher, and also an outstanding administrator with an accomplishment here at East Central High School. Everyone in this room, most people know we're very blessed in this community, and I won't jump ahead of Penny regarding our accountability score, but what I do want to stress to this community is that accountability scores is many things that go into it, and even our recognitions this evening show that. From in the classroom to the athletic community, that's where our students, their character is built, and so it's an honor to present these recognitions this evening. So I'm going to start with Mr. Huey to present the 2 National Merit semifinalists.
Good evening. I'm thrilled this evening to recognize 2 extraordinary students as who have been named National Merit semifinalists. Before I ask the 2 young men to join me, I'd like to tell you a little about the program. The National Merit Scholarship Program honors individual students for their exceptional scholastic potential. This year, Mississippi has 149 semifinalists from 47 schools. The Mississippi Coast had 19 students, and 2 of those are from the Jackson County School District and East Central High School. As juniors, Ryan Goodwin and Ashton Hadar took the 2021 preliminary SAT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, the PSAT, which serves as an initial screen of program entrance. The nationwide pool of semifinalists representing less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors includes the highest scoring entrants in each state. At this time, Ryan and Ashton, come on up. This is Ashton. Ashton is very conscientious about grades, attendance, and conduct in his classroom. Self-directed and capable of determining how best to reach the goals he sets for himself. He strives to do his best in all endeavors, and I feel confident that he will continue to challenge himself and also be of service to those around him. By the way, he made
Ashton, we'll do a picture.
34 on his ACT.
Yeah, watch right there. We'll do this one and we'll do a picture.
Next is Mr. Ryan Goodwin. Ryan is very outgoing. He is currently a member, or was a member of the following: the robotics team, marching band, math tutoring volunteer at East Central Middle School, member of the jazz band, and is also a pianist. Mr. Ryan Goodwin. Ryan, what'd you make on the ACT?
35.
Come on, tell everybody.
Yeah, be proud of that.
35.
Really? Parents wanted this picture? Where should we stand? Right in front? Why don't we stand over here? Go here and we'll face that way. That way we'll work. We'll face right this. We just stay here. Can't just stand here. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you. You want to recognize Coach or Mr. Coach Long? You got it.
Coach is not out.
At this time, I'd like to ask Coach Gary Long, our athletic director, here to the podium. He has a special presentation to make as well. We're very proud of both academics and athletics here at the high school.
We brought our baseball team after the season right at the end of school last year and recognized Coach Long as the 5A Coach of the Year. Well, then couple weeks after school started this year, got a call from Mississippi High School Activity Association, and they wanted to let us know that Coach Bo had been chosen as the National Federation of High Schools Coach of the Year, which in my terms means he is the Coach of the Year in the state of Mississippi in all classifications, which is pretty impressive, and I felt like we should recognize him again as that. And Coach Bo, if you'll come up, congratulations.
No, yeah. Gotcha.
Before you students get in, I'm also gonna have a.
Congratulations, Coach. Yeah, you did a great job. Okay, now we have the teacher recognition, and Ms. Tanner, you get that? Hold on.
Coach May's up here trying to decide if he taught both these boys or not. He's gonna take a little bit of credit for that science.
I'm sorry.
No, we're here to recognize, Coach Jonathan May. Coach May received a $1,000, Mississippi Professional Educators Classroom Grant, which he will use to purchase drones for his, class so that they can begin to practice and learn programming. He was one of only 43 recipients for the entire state to be selected for the award, and this I thought was quite impressive. In the past 5 years, Coach May has received over $70,000 in grants to use for his Project Lead the Way classroom and robotics classes. He's always competing with his students, doing different competitions, bridge building, robotics competitions, always has them involved in something dealing with engineering and designs, and so we can't say enough great things about Coach May, and we're real proud of him.
You standing down there, you coming down here?
One, two, three.
Now I'm gonna give Mr. Bowie an opportunity to brag about his school, but I want him to know that I appreciate his leadership. We found out, what's that been, about a month ago, regarding the National 2022 College Success Award, and we received an email. I think it was on a Friday, because I'm at the football game, and Jim goes, "You're going to want to pay attention to this announcement." And I was very proud when they announced it at the football game. Everybody loves a good football game, but it was neat for me and symbolic for me that our student athletes were being recognized, and our school was being recognized, and so it all does tie together, and I really greatly appreciate that. If you would please explain what this program is, and again, congratulations to the school.
All right, so let me just read this. It says 46 Mississippi high schools recognized with National 2022 College Success Award. As the Mississippi Department of Education today announced that 46 Mississippi high schools have received the prestigious 2022 College Success Award from great schools, the nation's leading nonprofit providing school information to parents and families. In a nutshell, what this is the number of students who actually go to college and stay in college. So that's, and ACC is a factor, but this is one of the other deciding factors that you don't hear about a lot. At least with our accountability model, that's one of the things that's not in there. So that's really what this is in a nutshell.
Congratulations.
Now you can say. Taking our board meeting.
Sorry, you have to back up that.
I'm still on one for the restroom.
You got it. Exactly. I don't want to be your Guys, congratulations. Thanks. Thanks for joining. Oh, yeah. Okay. Chris, you have an update for this?
What you need? Ready for the announcement?
Okay, I think everyone here this evening is aware, each month I update the Board of Education and Community on the goal areas representing the school district. And we are going to talk about, and again, I don't want to steal Penny's presentation, but I do want to talk about, as a whole, the accountability score and what it means to us. The best I can do, again, I try to use metaphors when I present this, because everybody understands a football game. Everybody understands components of a football game. Might be the offense, the defense, the special teams. But at the end of the day, there is a score. And I'm very proud of our school for the grade that we received, that we're an A school district, ranked 15th in the state. But I will say this, and I believe Penny's going to touch more detail about a lot of the schools ranked higher than us. And again, we're very proud of 15th in the state, very proud of that. But a lot of schools ranked higher than us had improvement points because I feel that because we came back to school earlier during COVID, I should say, our achievement levels are pretty solid. And a lot of the schools scored a lot on the improvement points because they didn't come back. And what the state is calling it, they're calling it a sugar high. That's the term that they're using. And if you look at our proficiencies, and again, Penny's going to talk about that, our proficiencies are pretty solid. So my point is, while we're 15th in the state now, I really feel like going into next year, we will do better. And so with that said, I am going to turn over tonight's presentation. I know we'll break a lot of hearts, but I'm going to turn over tonight's presentation to my team. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Assistant Superintendent of Instruction to introduce the curriculum update, and then we'll go from there.
This is a lot of data, and Dr. Westphal has done a tremendous job putting this together. So I'm going to let her share the highlights of this, and I don't want to steal her thunder, so I'm going to turn it over to her for this portion of the presentation.
Good evening. I hope everybody had a great day. We are excited to present this data to you. Once again, Jackson County School District is an A school district. Our schools consistently perform towards the top in the state. And we are working towards getting more consistent on being the top 25% on the coast. And we continue to work on that. So this is a lot of data, and I've asked Chris to start in the top left corner. So if you'll join me in the top left corner, those of you who have this ready. We will start with our proficiency. And what that is, the MAP assessment, the Mississippi assessment, is broken into 5 levels: minimal, basic, pass, proficient, and advanced. Typically, we calculate proficient and advanced as what we gauge our success by. And so you will see under English Language Arts in 3rd through English 2 that we have consistently performed over our 2021 scores. 3rd grade went from 50 to 62%. And you can see English 2, 52 to 57%. 8th grade is one of the areas we have identified as a need to focus on. where we went from 54% to 51% proficient and advanced. Overall, we're pleased with the scores, but as always, we dive into that data very closely. We see where we need to improve, and we dive down all the way to the student level and teacher level at each school to make sure that we are focusing on the individual students and their needs. If you'll look at right below that, in 2022 mathematics, same concept, third grade went from 59 to 68%. You can see a very nice jump from 36 to 58% proficient and advanced in math, fourth grade. That is one of the areas when we decided last year to focus on fourth grade math. We provided professional development in fourth grade math. We sent our instructional, our curriculum specialists into fourth grade math classrooms, and we provided support to those teachers. And we consistently followed up with that throughout the school year, and it did pay off in our data. So we are very excited about that. Seventh grade math is where one of our focus areas, as you can see, we went from 59% to 57%. Algebra had a nice jump from 57% to 81% proficient and advanced. One of the, we know our students did a fabulous job. And our teachers and administrators did as well in algebra. But just so you'll know, they did change the cut scores this past year in algebra, and we saw a tremendous jump in algebra statewide. However, I do think that we also noticed in our in the school, when we did our benchmark assessments, we saw the algebra scores going up as well. All right, top middle. That is math growth, and this is where what Dr. Stricker was referring to as maybe a false high for some schools. One of the things that we are watching out for is an abnormal high percentage of growth, and we did have some schools who had abnormally high growth percentages. However, we also looked at their proficiency percentages, and they were also increased. So we might drop next year, but we hope that the drop would not be significant enough to take them out of their left grade, accountability grade. So that if to make growth, they either grew within the categories or they maintained a 4 or 5 on proficiency. So that's how you take that growth. You can see the growth percentages in math and English language arts there. Moving on to the right, our student average daily attendance and teacher average daily attendance. Our student average daily attendance was a little lower this past school year, but we anticipate that will come up significantly this year. Our teacher ADA was 94.31%. That is also a little bit lower as well. Our kindergarten scores, you can see to the top right, our average scale score comparison. Our kindergarten students take a state test in the beginning of the year and one at the end of the year. It's a pre and post test. And you can see the comparison between 2019 and 2022. 2019 was the last time we took this test. The pre-test in 2019 was a 480, and in 2022, it was a 496. The post-test was in 2019 a 729, and in 2022 a 721. And so we did not increase our scale score points as much as we did in 2019 last school year, and that is something that we are working on. Our third grade reading final pass rate was 99.9% pass, so that is awesome. We continue to do better and better each year on our third grade reading scores. Our initial pass rate was 85.3%, and that is one of the highest we've ever had. If you'll look down at that green box there, Chris, yes. That is the number of schools with coastal and state ranked grade levels and subjects. You can see third grade through high school. the number of schools, the subjects, with subjects who ranked in the top 25% on the coast for third grade was 4. We had 1 school ranked in the top 25% on the coast with a subject grade or grade level. And then 5th grade had 3, 6th grade had 2, 7th grade had 3, 8th grade had 5, and high school had 3 grade levels for subjects. State, we ranked pretty well up in the state top 10%, and we had 3rd grade had 2 schools with ranked subjects or grade levels. 4th grade did not have any at the state level in the top 10%. 5th grade had 3, 6th grade had 3, 7th grade had 2, 8th grade had 6, and high school had 3. And that gives us a total of 21 and 19. And then if you break it down into the subject area, ELA has 8 for the coastal and state. Math, we had 9 schools who were ranked top 25% on the coast, and math and state, we had 6. Science had 3, and for the coastal, and 4 for the state, and history had 1 and 1. We have 40 national board certified teachers. In the middle, scroll down just to, right there. The district proficient in advanced percentage trends. This was interesting, I thought. If you'll look all the way to the left, we went all the way back to 2015. And you can see the trend, and you can see the COVID drip, the COVID dip there, right there in 2021. And we have come out of, for the most part, we have come out of COVID, and we are on our way out. So if you look to the left on the top line is science, and we started out in 2015 at 73.7% proficient in advanced, and we have ended at 72.6% proficient in advanced, which is a dip. And that was the only one that really dropped overall. But one thing to note is they changed the standards in there in the test. They made it a different level of difficulty. Also, the next line down is U.S. history. We started out in 2015 at 67.7% proficient in advanced, and we are now at 84.1% proficient in advanced in 2022. And the third line down is math, which started out at 49.3% proficient in advanced and ended at 61.5% proficient in advanced. And the bottom line is ELA at 48.3% proficient in advanced in 2015 and ended at 53.9% proficient in advanced. Any questions about the top half there? Okay, go ahead to the middle section.
But I do want to note, because it's the hard work of our principals and staff, that I was at a policy conference with the School Board Association, and the state attendance, ADA, has gone down, I don't know if drastic is the word, but considerably, I think to 90%, and schools are not returning back to what they once were. We're very blessed that our 2-week average, Tiffany, last time our 2-week average is approaching 94. So we're very blessed, and I wanted to comment because I know I have some principals in here and people do watch this online. And I know that's the teachers and coaches and everybody that makes that happen. That's a big deal. That the state is not recovering. The kids are not coming back to school statewide. Our kids are coming back. That's a testimony to our school.
And I would say last school year was a tough one, emotionally, for our students and our teachers. And we've powered through it and worked together to get through that.
And I think now it's paying off.
I do too. So graduation and scholarships. Last year, our graduation rate was 91%, which is really high on the coast. We're very pleased with it. You can see that in 2022, graduates earned $24,262,046 worth of scholarship offers. And I think that's the highest ever. The next section over Next is junior ACT average composite score, and you can look to see that, the state average in 2020 was 17.7. Our average was 20.1. In 2021, the state average was 17.3, ours was 20.1. And we did dip a little last year, in 2022, from 17 point, state had 17.4, we had a 19.7. So we did dip from 20.1 to 19.7. However, if you will look at the junior ACT score breakdown, the number of students scoring 30 or higher is higher than it ever has been, with 28. The top 10 student average composite score is 32.9. The top 50 student average composite score in the junior class is 29.2. And the top 100 student average composite score is 27.7. The percent of students scoring at or above a 21 composite score is 38.6. And the students scoring under that is 61.4%. If you'll look at the class of 2023 ACT average composite score trend, that little box underneath there you go. What we have started is in our initiative is we give a pre-ACT for our 10th graders. We give it also for our 9th graders, but we want to give you the class of 23 data so far that we've been able to collect for our junior class right now. So you can see in 10th grade, they scored, and this is by the 10th grade pre-ACT at East Central High School was 18.1. The fall 2021 ACT, when they were juniors in the fall, was an 18.8. And in the spring, they scored at 19.7. So you can see that growth from the 10th grade pre-ACT to when they took the actual state ACT in the spring of their junior year. And that trend shows true for all three of our high schools. On the right, we see our number of dual credit enrollment. We had 719 students. When I say that, student enrollment, so they may have taken more than one dual credit course, and we counted that again. So that's 719 courses that were taken dual credit. Our pass rate is 99%. If you will look under East Central High School, they had 117 students in the year 21-22 with a 100% pass rate. St. Martin High School had 390 students with a 98% pass rate, and Van Cleve High School had 379 students with 99.7% pass rate. Underneath that is the graduation trend, 9-year trend of graduation rate. I took it all the way back to 2014, and you can see that our graduation rate grew from a 76.6 all the way until now. The current one is 91% graduation rate. So we're very happy with that, and you can see the comparison between the state and the national graduation rates as well. So Jackson County School District graduation rate is almost second to none. On the left side is our accountability model. That is the actual model, and what I've done is I'm showing you by color coding the 17-18 scores, the 18-19 scores, and the 21-22 scores. So in 17-18, our accountability points for the district were 661, and then in 18-19, 685, and this past year was 713. And the last two accountability, when they gave out accountability ratings in that last two times, we have been an A. So if you look at the proficiency percentage, you can see that in reading, we grew from 53.4 to 53.9 over the 3 years. In math, we went from 55.3 to 61.5. In science, just like we saw earlier, there's a dip. We have dropped a little bit in our science from 39.1 to 34.5. And in US history, we went from 31.1 to 39.9 points. Our acceleration is where we did see a tremendous increase from 58.7 to 83.2. Our growth, Mississippi calculates growth for all students and then growth for our students performing in the bottom 25%. And our growth in reading went from 66.5 to 67.7. Our growth in math for all students went from 67.9 to 73.8. We did see a dip in our growth for our low 25% in reading from 60.2 to 55.3. And in math, we saw a nice increase in our bottom 25% from 52 to 59.8. Our graduation rate is shown there. Our college and career readiness. This is where we did really well this year. Our ACT initiative, I believe this is really paying off. And if you look right below this box in the work key certifications, this past year we were allowed to count our work key certifications with certain stipulations for college and career readiness accountability points. And so that's just the number of certifications that we were able to achieve this past school year. 22 platinum, 60 gold, 125 silver, and 72 bronze leveled. Over on an English language progress, that last box there, 42.2 in 1819 and 40.3 this past school year. Both of those are very high numbers because that's out of 50 points. So that's really an awesome job on that as well. There's a 28 accountability point increase from 1819 overall for Jackson County School District. Down at the bottom, we show our schools and their state scale score and their ratings. And we are pleased to have more A-rated schools this year than we've ever had, up to 7 this year from 6 last year. And if you'll scroll over to the right a little bit, we are almost done. I know you're glad. CTE scoreboard. You can see our programs and their state rankings. Automotive 2 was ranked 3rd in the state. Culinary 1 was ranked 2 in the state. IT, Information Technology 1 was number 1 in the state. Information Technology 2 was number 1 in the state. Marketing was number 3 in the state. And Teacher Academy was number 1. Teacher Academy 2 was number 1 in the state. We had students earning 526 national certifications through CTE this past school year, and our ACT work keys had a 97% pass rate.
Penny gives her heart to this program, and I know it represents our school district. But let's give her a round of applause. I know she And in closing, regarding the accountability, while we had our most A's ever in our high score, I feel now even represented tonight how we're dividing our organization by instruction and operations. Our goal is that we count on being an A every year. And so that's going to be the given. It's just how high we rank in the state. And we can do better. We have the right system now and the right people to make that happen. And we will make adjustments based on this data. So while we're celebrating what we just did, we can be better. No doubt about it.
The other 2 departments that fall under me are special education and federal programs. Their update is significantly shorter than the curriculum. We don't have as much data to go over. But special education, if you ask any of the principals, they will tell you that we have, in the special education department, Mrs. Stallworth has poured in a lot of support that they've never had for special ed students, and I think the principals would be very thankful, or are very thankful for what they have done, but we have put a lot of funding and support into that area. Also, we have a special education desk audit that will be coming up on October 28th. Again, no doubt Mrs. Stallworth is ready for that. And you should also know that our special education population has increased. About roughly 13 to 14% of our student population are special education students. And right now we have about 1,247 students that fall under that umbrella. As far as federal programs goes, the only real update we have is we are still awaiting the final school improvement listing from MDE, which literally should be coming out anytime. We were a little bit hopeful that maybe it would come out before we met. Still hasn't come out, but it should be out anytime soon. And we do have a couple of schools that we're hoping will move off of that list of schools that are in need of improvement. And that's all I have for the committee departments that I'm over. Any questions?
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Early?
Good evening. On the finance update for you guys this evening, we haven't had much change from last month as far as our projected ending balance for this fiscal year. We ticked up from 15.8 to 15.9%. And if we focus our attention on the bottom right there, that represents about a $3.4 million excess fund balance over our target. So a pretty significant amount of money. Going back to the left, the capital balance you see there, we've got about $7.2 million. We had a board for this evening. I'm sure you probably got some things in your mind that you might want to bring up or tackle. That's how much money we have to work with right now. That does not include the scheduled transfers this year, so just kind of keep that in mind. As far as updates go, I've got 3 I want to provide. The first is on audit updates. We have 2 going simultaneously. We still have the state auditor's office working with us on FY22 compliance audit. They did phase 1 back in the spring. They're going to come back out next month to do the field work on phase 2. We're communicating electronically, uploading a lot of documents that they request. I don't know how many days or weeks they'll be here for phase 2. But what we're hearing is it takes about a couple months once they wrap up the field work to get the results. So we're probably looking after the first of the year before we do anything from OSA. We also have our financial audit going on right now. The field work for that will be done in the last week of October. So it starts next week, I believe, the 24th. Second thing, electric school bus updates. I got a question on the tour today. Where we're at on that is on the Volkswagen mission grant, the $1.5 million that we got from NDEQ. That's pending the Fed's approval, and they have until next Monday to do that. If there's any requirements that they need from NDEQ to revise to make everything look good, NDEQ will handle that, resubmit it to the trust. If not, we'll have the grant. I'll send it to Jack for his review, and it'll be on the November agenda for you guys to approve. The second item with electric school buses, we have the EPA. If you recall, back in the summer, we got approval to submit that application. It's for close to $10 million, no matching requirement. Those winning applicants will be announced this month by the EPA. And from there, we basically can issue a PO and proceed if we were selected. In terms of probabilities, I'm sure you're probably wondering, well, what are the chances? They announced the actual application volume, and we have about 25 to 30% chance of receiving that minimum. Because Mississippi, every state has to have a winning applicant, our chances might be a little bit higher than other states. So, fingers crossed on that. And then a third electric school bus update for y'all. There is another grant opportunity coming from the EPA. It's going to be $500 million over in 2023. I'm expecting an announcement sometime within the next 2 months, and I'll probably be bringing another application to y'all to apply for that if we're eligible. Hopefully we are. Last thing, legislator discussions. Mr. Baggett and myself, Mr. Baggett set up a meeting with Senator England to talk about MAP teacher raises and that being rolled into the MAP formula for this upcoming fiscal year for FY24. He's trying to get us in front of Lieutenant Governor Hoseman. I'm hoping the Notre Dame Alumni Connection will get us at the table for that discussion. And then also, House Education Chair Richard Bennett spoke to the business managers back in September. I spoke with him after the meetings, exchanged contact information. He now has all of the impact statewide that this raise rolling into MEP will have. So it's about $52 million statewide. So we're pushing to make sure that stays in education as much as possible.
Then Ryan, I'll go ahead and touch upon, I'm not going to review the entire right side there regarding our budget situation looking forward to 23, 24. But I will again extend an invitation. Can't have any more than 2 board members to see the process. Not to micromanage, but to see the process of our budget reduction. I've been meeting with different employee groups, and where any chance I can to meet with an employee group, I explain to them, yes, it is possible to have excess fund equity to the tune of $3.4 million and still need to make budget reductions because of the reoccurring budget deficit. You have to nip that in the bud. And I explained to employee groups, the reason we do this is not for next year or the year after. Under my administration, we're going to look down the road. So this district is financially healthy 3, 5, and 10 years from now. So yes, we're very blessed that we have right now estimated $1.2 million more ADA if our attendance holds. Yes, we have excess fund balance of $3.4 million. So some people might say, well, there's all you need, Stricker, to balance your budget. But no, again, we're looking down the road. We need to make structural changes to our budget so we can remain, to see the number you see with that fund equity, meeting at least a 12% fund balance goal, if not 12 to 15%. So we meet on Thursdays. I'll send out another invitation. But it helps in communication to be able to see the process we follow. We're going to meet with our building principals. We discussed budget last administrative meeting with our entire group, and then also with central office. We've developed, Ryan's put together a list of items that we can use to reduce our budget. But we will be coming to the board next month with a draft of what we are recommending for reduction. But again, I want to make sure the board and the community know it's just not me sitting in my office with a few people saying, well, let's cut that. There is a process that we are following, and the process involves a lot of data and a lot of input. We're not just throwing a dart at the board. So I'll send out an invite on that. Ryan, anything you want to add regarding that process?
Questions? Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Megan with operations.
Okay, first up, our construction and maintenance updates. Baseball field progress at St. Martin. Always the question was, would we be able to get the turf down in time before the cold weather got here? So as of today, the infield has grass turf on it. There's grass down most of the first base line. By the end of the week, the entire field will be solid. Now from there, one thing we can't control is Mother Nature. As you know, it has been cool as of late this fall. With that being said, this is South Mississippi. Next week, we may be back in the 80s, in the 60s, which will allow time for our turf field to go ahead and take root. So we feel good where we are. We just get some warm weather. We feel good. The next one is the HVAC contract approval for the middle school. Bid came in at 1.89, and we'll talk about that later tonight, so I'm not going to go into details, but we do feel good about where it is, what it's going to do for our middle school moving forward. So, the St. Martin High School, the new chiller that was ordered, as you know, it was pushed back a little bit on the delivery date because supply chain problems everywhere. We were notified it's been pushed back a little bit further, so now it is scheduled to ship on the 10th of January, which we have a functional one. We can operate. It's just a little unnerving. We have to, and we're operating on the only backup that we have. So we feel comfortable where we are right now, but the original delivery date's been pushed back a little bit more. Moving on down to the AC canopy update. There's an 8-month lead time on those for East Central Lower and East Central Upper, but we are anticipating those to come in April, and they should be installed in April. The bleacher project, as you know, we put out an RFP. We're expecting to get back in bids on the 1st of November. So as soon as we get those, hopefully, we will be asking for a special call board meeting. Dr. Strickland, we asked for it on November 3rd, somewhere in that time frame. If we get back the information. Moving on down to the Van Cleve ESSER projects. Most of them are nearing completion, both at the high school and middle school, with the windows and the floors. We're going to be doing a punch list walkthrough on Wednesday to go ahead and any discrepancies that we see between what we see and what they see, we get those worked out. And we're going to be glad to get that, and I know the principals are too, to get those projects closed out. JCTC, the ESSER update, we're waiting on an HVAC component for this project. It was a 42-week lead time whenever we ordered it. We're expecting it to come in April to have that project complete. The rebid for the East Central ESSER projects. So originally we were only dealing with ESSER 2 money. The bids came back and it wasn't within our budget. Now that we've got ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 money, we have what we need to not only do those projects, but expand those projects. So we're going to be doing flooring and window projects for both East Central High School and East Central Middle School. Another thing we're going to do differently this time, instead of lumping windows and flooring in together, we felt like we may have kept some companies from bidding on it because it was too much. So we're going to separate the flooring projects from the window projects, hoping we're going to get more bids for those as well. It's something we're going to do differently. So those will be coming out soon. The St. Martin Attendance Center, the HVAC renovations, now that we know exactly what we're dealing with for the middle school and how much it's going to cost, we will have some money left over so that we can attend to needs at the St. Martin Upper Elementary boiler and some old R22 units, along with an HVAC problem we had in the front of St. Martin East. And then, if we still have money left over, we'd like to go back and look at the high school green tech systems again, and see if there's something maybe that we can do with an outside resource to try to help solve that humidity problem in the high school. But that's at the end of the problem. We have to take care of upper first. We also have to and we're also going to be doing the big package units on top of the gym and cafeterias, which are very expensive and it's hard to absorb in our HVAC budget throughout the year. That's something we can do. That's right. Likewise, with the HVAC for Van Cleve, now that we've got a little bit of money left over, we want to go back and address some of these big package units at Van Cleve High School. On top of the gym, these are big 15-ton units that are very expensive and hard to absorb in your HVAC budget throughout the year. They're very old, we'd like to go ahead, and some of them aren't even operational. Let's go ahead and get that fixed right now while we have the means to do so. And the last one, and we're going to talk about this, I think later on in the meeting, is a vehicle purchase. Earlier this year, we had one of our maintenance vehicle trucks was involved in a wreck, so we're going to have to replace it anyway. While doing so, we would like to get a vehicle that prohibits us from doing some things in our district that we're having to outsource and pay people to move the equipment. Especially like with our bleachers now, that we're going to be moving them from attendance center to attendance center. It's $3,000 every time we need to move those bleachers. If we get an upgraded vehicle, it won't cost us a dime, and we can move them anytime we want to on our schedule. Not to mention, as we move forward towards centralization, some of these pieces of heavy equipment we've had to outsource and pay people to come in and use, whether it's for a busted gas line or water line, debris removal, whatever it may be. As we move forward, we'd like to purchase pieces of equipment and stop outsourcing when possible and do things inside. It may cost us a little bit more right now, but in the long run, I think it's going to save us a lot more money, and we'll be able to respond quicker to emergency situations when they happen.
And we're looking to do the same with transportation. That's, again, the key is the centralization. So now we can invest in equipment that all 3 attendance centers can use, which will definitely save money in the long run.
Moving on to technology, and I know you've heard from more than one concerned community member, and I'm concerned too, talking about intercoms. And it's an ongoing problem. We have an aging intercom system, not just in a few, but all of our schools. Some of the systems we've looked to go to, I don't think are going to meet our needs moving forward. It may be a Band-Aid for right now for the next year or 2 or 3 to but 10 years down the road, I'm afraid we're gonna be in the same situation if we continue with this. So we've talked to Chris and his team to go back and to see what other options are out there. That may be a little bit more that we may need to spend right now, but we would know going forward 10 years, we're gonna be in solid footing. With intercoms, it's not something that you hope they work. You hope you never have to use them for an emergency, but if that time comes, we want them to work. So I've asked Chris and his team to go back and research and look at different options. We will be bringing you something back in the future as far as intercoms go. Not just for 1 or 2 schools, but the entire district, something that we can rely on. Also, good news with technology. We've done Google changeover now. It's gone better than I even anticipated. And I think Chris and his team did a great job of laying some foundational work ahead of time over months, and then training, retraining, and helping our employees that may, like myself, that may have struggled for a little while with it, but they've been very helpful and will continue to do professional development as needed with the changeover. But I'm pleased I haven't heard that many complaints. And the last one under technology there, the instructional technology, the specialists have completed multiple training sessions over the whole year on software and hardware, and we'll continue to do that ongoing professional development. You know, with any professional development, it's not just one-time training, that's it, you got it. That's not the world that we live in. We know some groups will need follow-up, and we'll continue to do so whenever it comes upon us.
You might as well step with Mr. Baggett.
Go ahead, you want to take turns?
But I do want to talk about transportation. We have purchased the software. The software has arrived. We are going to be looking at our routes, processes. Ryan did, I think, last Board of Education meeting pass out the budgets of what we're spending in each attendance center. So we are looking at the data, but I do want to ride routes longer. I'm trying to ride 2 to 3 routes a week from the different attendance centers, and I want you to know what I'm doing. Not only am I just observing what happens, but I'm talking to those drivers. And I'm learning a lot from those drivers, but I will say this, what St. Martin does, what Van Cleve does, and what East Central does are 3 different things. But I want you to know, we're gonna take our time on this. I really want to hear what the people actually doing the work, the drivers, what they're saying, why we do things the way we do it, but again, and we will have a report, but it's amazing to me, and within one county, how differently we do transportation in all 3 attendance centers. But anybody listening to this online, I want the board to know we will take our time. We're moving forward with the software, with the data analysis and so on, but we will take our time and listen to the people that are doing that work and those bus drivers. So board members, if you'd like to ride a bus with me, it's very interesting, and I'm serious, and I know you're busy, but if you ever have time, it's very interesting to see even what our drivers go through, why there's a driver shortage. It's not an easy job, so, right.
Thank you, Dr. Moving on to child nutrition, excited to tell you all 13 sites have increased in their paid lunch participation for this past year. Earlier this year, all of our sites were inspected by the health inspector. We got all A's as I would expect. Getting to work with Ms. Harris, her and her team do a fantastic job. As you know, she was awarded year before last the Child Nutrition Director of the Year, so that doesn't happen by accident. She does a tremendous job of working with the principals and the communication skills. Excited. I know some people get nervous, but I'm looking much to this. In November, MDE is coming down to audit our child nutrition, so Ashley and I are looking forward to that audit coming forward, so we can show them all the fantastic things we're doing here
Good
at the county school. Oh, bring it. Athletics, moving on, just wanted to give you an update. For whatever reason that I can't tell you why, but drug testing for our student athletes has not been happening for the last 2 years. We are resuming that. Been working with Ms. Labata. Each attendance center has turned in the names of the students that are eligible for it. We will be following the policy, doing random drug testing, and it's with the same company that we've done before. So just FYI, we are going to be starting back on our program. That's something I'm adding about. I've done it in other districts. I think it helps tremendously for our young people. giving them an excuse not to give them peer pressure, so.
Just one thing on that, it's not just athletic, it's just like.
Anybody participating in MHSA activities, maybe band, choir, also anybody that drives to school, it's clearly laid out in policy. All of those young people are,
And I appreciate that, I think that's a good thing that the school district can do, not that we're trying to get any kid
are not.
in trouble, but, I think as parents, we need to know.
As a parent, I would want to, so I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
Also, want to move on to,
Well, I go,
you want to do the,
again, I already discussed the attendance tonight.
other than-
It's very important that that 94% is what we're striving for. The past week, there has been more sickness than what we maybe anticipated, that the COVID subsided a little bit. But that's important, we reach that number for budget, not only because kids need to be in school, but for budget reasons. And extracurricular programs, the programs that, thank you Board of Education for supporting them, like wrestling. I've met with wrestling coach, especially the coach at Van Cleve, we've actually become friends. David Sutherland, the amount of kids that he has interested in the sport. And I had lunch with him last week, the life-changing experience those guys are having, those athletes are having. Thank you for supporting those sports. We are moving forward. And again, I want to keep that on the list. We will be, now that we have the structure in place with our school district, we really do need to look at scheduling. So I'm just keeping that on the list as review. Thank you.
moving on to building security. I'm glad to tell you now, after the last teacher workday, all of our staffs have done the praise trainings and they're all completed. There's only one group that still needs to be done, Dr. Stricker, and that's the central office, so we will be scheduling that for our staff as well. I would like to think it never happened, but unfortunately, a lot of times when parents show up in our building, they're not always happy. So
Yeah, I would
I
say
think
a lot
it's
in my
important
office.
that we are
Yeah.
trained on how to handle situations like that, so we will be
It's-
class building training. We've also done some security modifications both at East Central High School and Van Cleve High School. I think they're going to help us keep the building secured. And we will continue to monitor and make adjustments as we can do so moving forward with our budget this year, not next year. This year we will be doing things. Game security, we've added some security at the gates and also patrolling parking lots with very good results. The athletic directors feel much better where we are right now. But we are going to continue to monitor local, state, and national trends of what people are doing to make sure that we're keeping our fans safe and that we're coming into games. And the last one that I'm going to talk to you about, that's, and it's not just a trend that we're seeing here in our county. I think this is staying nationwide with vaping, and it's a serious problem. Every middle school and high school principal that I've talked to, we've got a problem with vaping. And last year we did some pilot programs with putting vape detectors in the restrooms. I think they worked well, and so we're going to be looking to expand that for this year. I think in all of our schools we need to, again, we're going to work within our maintenance budgets that we have right now, so we don't have to expand it out. But that's something very much that I think, again, to help our young people have an out why they can't do it. We need to put preventative measures in place. It's just like kids walking down the hall. If there's an adult supervising them, 9 times out of 10, they're going to do the right thing and act right. If they think no one's watching them, they may make a poor choice. Think likewise with vaping. We can put sensors and things in place that they know if they do it, it's going to go off. So I think we need to try to take some type of preventative action to keep these young people from vaping when that shoots those things.
I appreciate that. I think this is just a tremendous problem that is just mushrooming overnight. And I don't know where this is all coming from, but it's just everywhere. And I think sometimes we think of vaping as being, that if you put something in these electronic devices, and we think of it as being some benign thing, and what's the harm? That is not always true. And sometimes the things that they put on are very good. I personally believe that vaping is an entry to growth.
It's a stepping stone.
It is, it's a stepping stone. I think it is a thing that has led many a good young boy, girl in drugs. And I would like to ask you, I hear you want to work within the bank's budget, and that's great. If, there's something that you feel has merit that would help us limit or control this, then you can feel about it, appreciate it, and bring it to this board.
Absolutely.
Let the board consider,
Absolutely.
because I think it's adequate.
I agree, because how many times have we sat here where kids said he took the hip off of a friend's mate, thought it was one thing, had an adverse effect to it, and it ended up hospitalized. I mean, you just don't know what they're putting in these things, and kids can't always make the best choices, so anything that we can do to make that. We'll do a measured step approach and try to limit it, but if we get to the point where we feel like we need alternate resources, we will definitely come to you.
Thank you.
That's right, Dr. Schmidt.
Thanks. Regarding effective leadership, now again that we have our new organization structure in place, the way that it was done in the past in Jackson County Schools, each attendance center managed their own evaluation process, even though teachers from the state had theirs, administrators had theirs, but for other employees, it was per attendance center. Now that we have our reorganization structure, we are going to have a systematic evaluation process, and I just want to stress to the board and people listening and employees, it's for improvement. The evaluation process is going to be for improvement. It's not a got you system, but we are going to standardize that because we have 3 different systems regarding evaluation. And then Christy will touch upon our progressive discipline, same thing. As we looked at personnel files, when we had a situation come up with an employee, it was according to the attendance center. We're gonna systemize our progressive discipline, and again, the goal of it is for improvement, not to get people.
So back this summer when we had our administration retreat, I did a presentation on progressive discipline and the steps we were gonna take to make that happen. We start with verbal warning, depending on what it is. Next it goes to written reprimand. Then it will go to possibly a plan of improvement, depending on how the employee does. After that, it goes to a couple days suspension, unpaid suspension at home. Of course, severity, depending on what the issues are. And then if no improvement is made, then we move towards termination. So, like I said, I introduced this process to the administrators this summer, and unfortunately, we've already had to put it to the test, but it's working. It's working. The administrators have been great. We're communicating, we're talking back and forth. What do we need to do? What's the next step? Is this right? We can proofread this. So we've only had a few so far, but it looks like it's going to be a good process. Everybody's on board, and it appears to be working. So.
And personnel files will be centralized. When we would have discipline issues come up, we would have to go to each attendance center and find information. And so part of this process with evaluation and progressive discipline will be a centralized system with personnel evaluations for consistency, which is especially important in this day and age of lawsuits, that we're consistent of how we implement both evaluation and progressive discipline.
So basically, if it's not an HR's file in our office, it didn't happen. That's the rule. So they want to do something with an employee, they got to work with me, make sure we follow the process, and we're consistent as required.
Any questions? Okay, moving forward, we do have under public comment, and I know Senator Seymour, you have enjoyed the 1 hour superintendent updates. I'm sure you know what though, seriously, thanks for, and I know you're busy, thanks for seeing what we do here. I do appreciate it, but I know you're busy and you have long days. Dr. Morgan, did you want to do any introduction or?
Sure, we're glad to. We're going to talk a little bit about Senate Bill 3011, line 145, where we were basically adopted by a couple of gentlemen in the legislature who took care of us, Mr. Matthew Barton, Senator Seymour, who's been with us from the very beginning on ideas to expand our CTE program. So we're very glad that he's able to join us tonight. And
he has been a champion for our school district. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank the board for allowing me to hopefully say just a few words. But as it's called now, CPE, vocational training has been next to my heart growing up, some more ways than one as far as being a student in years ago. Jackson County, to save money and all, to be more efficient because of the lack of the student wanting to be in it, consolidated in the bank. With a loss in the real time of a student being at work, the efficiency is not there no more. And I relate back to the times when I was in school, there was something there that you have the saying that when you graduate, you get that diploma and you go out to attack the world. Well, then the next day the world attacks back, and you're not ready for that. Vocational training has a twofold purpose in the way I see it. You have those that have dreams, young people that have ideas, but they want to be a mechanic, they want to be a welder, until they pull the shield down or they break 3 or 4 knuckles. Then they realize, but it's too late, they're done graduated, they gave up their scholarship. At St. Martin, we had a valedictorian that went this route. It took no more than a semester that if we was able to have put that vocational training in the high school, that young man, and he was not of a wealthy family either, he could have put that scholarship money to his best use, and he would have been down the road further. He still ascertained what he needed to do in life and has been successful in it. But that's what I commend y'all as far as trying to do, and to perceive that every type of option to get the young people inspired to at least take some type of vocational course, to where they understand this is not my line of work. I don't want to be greasy. I don't want to have flash burned to the eyes. So I'm going to, it inspires me to go back to the classroom and make it easier on some of our teachers, and, you know, we'll adapt better. But that being said, 4 years ago, when we finally agreed how to spend the BP money, we come up with the GCRF fund. And everybody had their bright ideas, and mine was vocational training. So my first experiment with it was I had Stone County that had no building, nothing to work with. So getting with my superintendent there, Miss Anita Owens, we devised, she got a grant writer, put it all together, submitted it, and it was in the top 5 of all projects that they received with MDA. Being that said, it took 2 years, $6.4 million for that. One school, we had to break it up into 2 different years. After that, then come the biggie, and with Manley's help and our ability from Governor Reed really being reinforcing of the vocational training, we were able to pursue some of the money that actually goes into the junior college vocational training. So hopefully this come about when I approached JJ. We was less than a month.
Yes.
He had no earthly idea. I'm not a grant writer, but I had a template for him. So we was on the phone communicating several days there, and we got it all plugged in and got it into a system. Manley stepped up and helped with deriving this to go through the junior college money. It was a little easier for us to appropriate it that way, and it's a little faster. You've already made your request, and
We got the memorandum of understanding on the board track.
right. So I'm hoping this will expedite it. This next year, we're talking 9.3.
375, yes, 9.3.
Well, we're close. But the end goal, was first, well, the first part was at least to get it accepted, to get something started. To where all three campuses can have their own vocational training. I know you're gonna have some cross, depending on the subject matter that they're be taught. But anyhow, that, I'm hoping, I'm really expecting, good things this session, being it's an election year, that, we'll have cooperation, and, Jeremy England also, helped, Bryce Wiggins, pass the bill, so our, Senate body and the House, we work really well together to get this accommodated, and I can't say it, 100%, but everything looks good for it to make this next, draw. I do have a couple of requests, and it's not because of, anything of y'all, but with your 16th section land, I would like to know, or not right now, but the efficiency of your return on your money as far as forestry land. Not your commercial leases or any of that, but we're trying to look into some of, I would say, extra expenses from forestry towards school districts, and kind of get accountability from them on that. And also, y'all heard of ARP, the infrastructure money, water and sewer. Jackson County Board of Supervisors have received, I think, roughly $28 million. As far as I know, they gave $7 million toward the hospital. There's roughly $10 million being used as a match for the city. There's still a substantial amount there. Our schools was built after I left, 83, I think you said. There must be some infrastructure, Mr. Baggett, that you would, come up with a game plan to, put in the portal for a water and sewer project, because the Senate or the legislature, we agreed through whatever the portals, with water, the health department and DEQ, whatever project they approve, we have allocated $400 million as a dollar-for-dollar match. And I feel Board of Supervisors for the county, and they've helped the city out some, and why can't they help out our schools, Jackson County schools? We'll do it. One last thing, I'd like, if y'all have put in place procedures and training, especially on your special needs buses for all the schools. I don't know if you just run one bus for all of it. It's something that's kind of, it kind of hit home several years ago, and I just want to make sure that we have properly trained teachers and drivers. The bus driving has become an issue with the new governmental standards. Have y'all had any problems?
It's hard to find drivers.
Huh?
It is hard to find drivers. And
CDL.
yeah, with the raising of the standards and the training requirement makes it even a little bit harder.
If you have somebody that is in that problem, get with me, and I can get with, the director to try to make some of this happen.
Okay.
Y'all have any questions?
So all three of those items, I'm sorry, if you want me to follow through with you. On all three of those items, do you want me to personally follow through with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, very good.
I don't have a question, I just want to say thank you. And so, it has been a goal of this board, and it was the folks who came before us and had the dream of consolidated VOTEC, you know, in the summer school district, that was a noble thing to do, and trying to offer more to everybody, but, the difficulty with, you know, some kid, you know, getting out of this class, 10 minutes to get to a bus, 25 minutes to get to Van Cleve, 10 minutes to get situated, and then they gotta go come back, it eats into your educational time in the school day.
Sure.
And I just want to tell you that, you know, as long as I've been on this board, we've had this goal, but it cost me to put a VOTEC at each of the three high schools. And I just want to say thank you. Manley has told me how instrumental you've been in securing all of this. And, thank you.
Wasn't just me now, Manley, I could have done without Manley in the house. He carries a lot of weight over there.
He's told me that you do. So thank you very much.
If y'all ever need anything, just feel free, and probably y'all see more of me if I can ever get county to fix the bridge over here. But, in a year and a half, I will be senator for East End. Don't hesitate at all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I will say, JJ is an inspiration to work with.
He is, so we're very glad to have Grab. Unless you have questions, Brad, yeah, anything to add or construction update?
No, I don't. Think that, unless y'all have questions for me.
Questions, Brad?
I do have questions. On the St. Martin baseball turf project, I know you talked about the seed setting on that, but there's also the artificial turf. Do we have a schedule update on that? I don't think we've heard anything official, the turf portion.
I don't have anything official from him, but he tells me that it's not gonna be a problem to meet the deadline. So what we're waiting on right now is the shop drawings to come back, which are supposed to come in this week. And so that'll have the graphics that we'll submit to get formal approval from whoever's gonna make that approval, so that we can turn those around and get them into production.
Thank you.
May I ask what shade of blue?
That'll be on the shop drawing, so we'll make sure that it's the proper one.
And that's a very good point. I think samples have been instrumental in the past on the blue.
That's right. Turf is easier to do than tracks. So,
Okay. It's a similar agenda then. Item D7, discuss monthly financial reports. Do we have any discussion on the financial reports for the month? Item 8, the FY22 business office year in review. Ryan, could you tell me what I'm looking at here with this report?
Yeah, this is something new.
This is D8.
Yeah,
That attachment.
Yeah. So what it's doing is it's just looking at last fiscal year, July to June. What I did is I looked at volume of work using some reporting tools that I've got access to, and tried to assign a cost of each of these activities so that I have a good understanding of, one, how much each of my team members are doing, and two, what is it costing the district for every item, every task that they perform. And pretty eye-opening numbers for some of these things, both on volumes and costs. And what I hope to use this information for is kind of like a benchmarking and trending tool, as well as possibly just maybe set some procedures internally to say, hey, if we're going to do X, you know, it costs us Y, so maybe we need to set a minimum threshold, right? I don't mean, even if we do $1 PO, if it costs us over $1 to issue it. So those are some of the things I'm going to be looking into a little bit further. Wish I had done this a lot, a while ago, since we have data trending to go off of, but That's all it is, just an FYI item for the board, just bring awareness to maybe some of the results that were occurring for this past.
Any other questions on that? Right, moving forward to Dr. Messa's item E1. Award St. Martin Middle School HVAC renovation project, including alternate number 2, installation of redundant condenser water pump to DMP Incorporated for $1,891,000 necessary funds. Do I have a motion for item E1?
Motion.
Ms. Dawson. Second by Mr. Dickerson. Discussion.
I had a question, just looking at the bid tabulation. The alternate one was for PEX piping, and so I just wanted to know what the district's thoughts were on why we want to exclude that, or is that not better?
They're actually trying to save some money based on the original bidding of it. And actually, I think that contract is charged for.
Yeah, so I think DNP charged more for PEX because they just didn't want to use it. I mean, they're more familiar with steel. So steel, generally steel is gonna cost more than PEX. So usually PEX is used to save money. But, so there were 2 bids, JEL bid cheaper for PEX.
Right.
DNP bid more for PEX. So the district's preference was steel all along. It was just trying to save some money, but as it turns out, in this case, save money to go steel.
And that was my question, is looking at the bid, if we would have included alternate one because one company actually decreased, but one company increased, it would have changed what we want to do. So, and I know we've gone to PEX and a lot of applications where we have trouble with steel. But, so I'm verifying basically with you that we prefer steel in this instance.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, and maybe there's been something that's gone on somewhere else, but most of the places I think that you've gone to PEX have been to replace CBC.
That's right, going off the main line, going to the heat pumps, we've been utilizing that, but for the main trunk lines,
Which is what that
we'd rather
was.
go with steel.
Right, okay, just want to verify, so I appreciate that clarification.
Any questions? In favor? Takes us to E4.
Thank you.
Approved purchase of a maintenance truck to replace a recently damaged truck, as well as to provide heavy towing capability to the district. Motion for E4. Motion by Mr. Powell. Second by Ms. Dobson. Discussion.
Yes, so I went back on the asset, on the fixed asset, the surplus, and I couldn't find where we had already surplus the truck. Did I miss it?
It's still being adjusted from, it's still being reviewed by the insurance adjuster. It just happened last month.
And if we replace the truck with a heavy duty truck, what's the truck currently being used for at St. Martin? If we go to a central depot and the location is not St. Martin, is that going to put St. Martin at a negative for a vehicle?
No, ma'am, we're gonna take the facilities manager truck from Dwayne, who's using it right now, and we'll move that around, so.
Pass it on down, so to speak.
Okay.
They'll be getting an upgrade either way. But I'd rather Dwayne use this truck.
Any other discussion?
No, I think Dr. Baggett answered pretty much everything I had earlier.
Another thing I didn't mention, this is gonna be a diesel vehicle. The vast majority of our fleet is already diesel. We have diesel mechanics. We're gonna get much more longevity, we feel like, with a diesel engine versus a gas engine moving forward as well.
And we filed the police reports for the
Oh, yes, ma'am, that's all been done. We're just waiting on the adjuster to come. We're at their mercy right now.
Anything else? All in favor? Aye. All right, that takes us down to newly added item G6 to approve new employee Katie Timms. We have a motion for G6. Motion by Mr. Dickerson, second by Mr. Powell. All in favor? Aye.
Move to go back to G2. Discuss and approve responses to the 2023 MSBA legislative survey. Let's have discussion first. Discussion. So, Chrissy, what's our?
So we just need to read through each of the questions and whether you'll support it, oppose it, or you have no opinion as a group.
It's true. You're right. So.
We did, the instructions say, take time at your next board meeting to complete the survey as a team and for the results, so.
We talked about this.
Would it be easier to speak and vote on each one, or how we all?
Through each item?
Yep.
Or. Let's just, I think we designated it.
I mean, they
You can designate it. We usually do. Alright, you,
Actually, what, I believe that we've opted to, when I've asked in the past, Mr. Fallon, I think was the last one I asked, and he said if I wanted to complete it, as soon as that I could, that we didn't do it as a board, because we didn't take the board time out of the meeting to do so. But, it would only help the MSBA in our efforts and get our voice heard if we do it. We have no voice if we don't do it, so.
I mean, it's 20 questions. And the last two are discussion. So that's it. So you got to, what is the deadline on this?
I believe 21st.
October 21st?
It's just go number by number and vote on the number that support, and that be our response.
We can. We want to put it on the board.
It's still open.
Let's open up that attachment. Let's make it full screen. Page width. All right, so question one. This is. Census. All right, question one. Legislation. Do we support or oppose legislation that would increase school board member compensation? Personally, I have no opinion on that. So, you know,
No opinion, but I would like to make a comment. I'm fine with us agreeing on no opinion, but in this case, you know, school board member compensation is approximately $2,000 annually. So it's a little under $200 a month for school board member compensation. I think that the low value probably detracts a lot of people because of the amount of hours you do put into it. But I don't know that increasing the compensation is necessarily going to increase the applicants or people who run for office. Because those.
And, well, my interpretation of that is, you know, it takes money out of the equation. People who are here because they care solely about the education of children in their community and their district. So that's why I'm of no opinion regarding compensation, because I just want to see our communities be better.
Ms. Peterson said we're all in favor of no opinion. And I'll just tally them and then
Just tally, yeah,
Yeah.
go from there. Item two.
yeah, I got you.
Legislation that would establish board member salary based on student enrollment. Yeah, I oppose. I oppose.
Opposed.
Item three, legislation that would require all school board members to be elected.
So I'm assuming here they're talking about like cities.
These are, yeah,
There's city council.
So you, I would, why would you do it any other way, would be my question. But, I guess the municipalities will some.
I know,
I don't know if any either way, whatever works for that area. Item 4, legislation that would restrict local control of the school. Oppose this.
Those-
Item 5, legislation that would provide incentives to teachers to remain in education. Support that. I support it too. Item 6, legislation that would provide incentives for school districts to move to a year-round calendar. I know this has been piloted in several local schools. Whether it's positive, it's an option for some of us.
I like the idea of year-round calendar, but I think students incentives. So, no,
so I just don't think we have enough data in front of us.
So, opinion on 6. Legislation that addresses school board member misconduct. We don't
Okay,
Wonderfully behaved school.
have that.
I would actually support this one. There are,
I have no opinion.
No opinion. Support. Item 8, legislation that would require each local school board to formally adopt a code of conduct for board members. I support.
Support.
Touch that screen. Item 9, legislation that would change the public education funding formula from average daily attendance to total enrollment.
I know.
I don't think we could ever exceed total enrollment. Right.
So your average daily attendance decreases the amount of money you receive. You would receive more if you went off of student enrollment. The problem in the past was though, people didn't take kids off rolls as quickly as maybe they should.
I think another negative to it would be that you may not have the emphasis to get your kids to school. Teachers might not be as inclined on a half day, say, stay home, versus the incentive they have for knowing it's funded by the ADA. But we would benefit by the total enrollment as long as we maintain some responsibility in our own district for keeping our ADA up. We need something to support it on your personal district level.
I support.
Support.
Hold on to your plan. Item 10, legislation that will fully fund the public education funding formula. This is a no-brainer, we support that. Item 11, legislation that would create a structured statewide approach to quality early childhood education. Support that. Number 12, legislation that would eliminate the requirement of passing an end-of-course test to graduate.
I have a question. Is that something that our high school principals would support?
I support that, but I would also support, the implementation of the ACT in place of that. With certain requirement on the ACT.
Third grade read, get the same. So this is to eliminate that. Eliminate things like third grade.
So,
Things that.
well, no, some, yes, somewhat I do. I'm mixed on the third grade reading, but I'll be honest with you. I think that's a lot of pressure to place. I do think that there needs to be the accountability for third grade, because if they are not on track reading in third grade, they are at a major deficit, and it is lifelong. You know, I mean, you reference the prison pathway or whatever, but it's more than that. It's, if they're not reading on grade level, they're gonna struggle with insurance papers and employee papers and, you know, getting a good job. The third grade, I'm a little bit more inclined to, but when you having to pass an end of year history, end of year biology. That's an every year stress in the high school level. I would rather see the ACT. That's what I would like.
So we can support elimination. That's what you're saying.
I would. But that's just me, I would rather see the ACT. So, and the thing of it is when COVID did away with requiring that, graduation rates went up. So,
Item 13, legislation that would increase qualifications for individuals running for the local school board.
Currently, the only requirement is high school diploma. I would appreciate support on some additional requirements. What they would be, I don't know, but I think sometimes something about a high school diploma kind of necessitates thought process for some individuals.
I'm opposed.
I would. So, to impose, I don't know, opinion, your opinion. Support. So, what's the?
I know opinion would be the center. True, your opinion would be the center.
Item 14, legislation would allow for a salary supplement for experienced teachers willing to relocate to F-rated school districts.
That has, it's a great idea. It's a great idea.
I don't think they're really
Yeah, well, that depends on proximity, but relocate, we do have a neighboring school district which I think is struggling. Again, the reason why we're all over is because we want a better future for all of our children. Our priorities are aligned correctly. I hope that we need to relocate to something. Item 15, legislation that would allow public funds to be diverted from public schools to non-public schools, homeschools, or virtual schools by means of vouchers, tuition and tax credits, or scholarships. Yeah, I vote yes. Yeah. 16, legislation that would allow public charter schools and districts with successful accountability ratings of A, B, or C.
our side, an administrator who walks the library on that advantages, disadvantages.
I can't think of any advantages.
Yeah, like disadvantages. You're gonna have a charter school in Federal, and a charter school here. We cherry picking our kids too for high performance.
You'd have a school that would draw all the high flyers, leaving the rest of the public high schools.
And they can mandate their class size to a much smaller. They have contracts signed where if your student misses days, doesn't have the behavior, doesn't do the homework, then they're out.
No testing.
Yeah, yeah, so, well, now, Jackson has a charter school that did testing, but you look through their, I mean, come on, the class sizes are so nice. And the other schools in Jackson don't get that. I would,
Just think of what would happen to the high schools that we have right now if you took out the cream of the crop at each school and let them go somewhere else.
Item 17, legislation that would provide incentives for people majoring in education and or people seeking an alternative route license. Support 17. 18, legislation that would provide financial incentives to consolidate schools. I know that Mr. Baggett, I know that you have had experience with consolidating Starkville.
Just talking about, so they did this financial incentive that they put up a certain, so many $1 million to build a new school that was built on Mississippi State University's campus. So yes, they've done this before, but the reality is, if they want to consolidate schools, they can just pass legislation and do it. They do it. So they're going to continue to do it where it's needed throughout the state. When they want to, they can do it.
On to the discussion. What are our top priorities for the upcoming legislative session? The vote takes.
And our main funding for,
Yep. May.
yes. Maybe full funding, teacher funding.
Or at least all funding based on program.
Several states have taken on the universal free meals, and that would highly benefit this county district because all of our neighbors, Mobile County, Pascagoula, Shady Moss Point, even Bay Waveland, they qualify for CEP, which is based on the food stamp population basically. And our county will, even in St. Martin, even though we have 54% free and reduced district-wide percentage, we will not have the CEP qualification. So a lot of states are taking that initiative rather than just putting it on the federal.
Universal. Last item, what are some of the top issues that are currently in the district? Facilities.
Teacher retention,
Teacher retention.
actually administrative retention as well. It's gonna be, I'm just saying that's going to be a big issue.
It is what it is.
Well, I'm done. No, I'm kidding.
Will be. That question I had is what the top.
That's what I'm
I would say it's attracting, retaining quality administrators.
Staff.
Right.
District staff.
As, yes,
And
school
we are
bus
certainly
drivers
all staff.
are a big issue too. That's your bill.
That's it. Thank you very much.
I would like to let Mr. Lamont talk for a minute.
Right. Yes.
But I'm just curious now, did MSBA contact you and say you need to, what's your involvement with MSBA?
They, I believe Dr. Strickland forwarded it to me if I remember correctly.
So we have not restricted that.
Yes.
Next time.
Thanks for back with us. Okay. All right, so, now we need to approve the responses to the MSBA legislation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Dickerson makes the motion. Ms. Peterson seconds. In favor. Ayes have it. Okay. Takes us down to J2. Under Dr. Morgan, approve MOU with Mississippi Community College Board as condition of receiving no more than $6 million. Motion to approve. Mr. Dickerson.
Second.
Second by Ms. Peterson. Any discussion on this?
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you for the work you've done.
It's nice to see it happen.
Yes.
Do you remember what we talked about? What's gonna go to St. Martin, what's gonna be centralized, what's gonna be re-central.
Could you send the package out one more time?
Yeah, just email, that'd be good. That way they have it.
Yes. I'll send it to Dr. Strickland. Yes.
Very good. All in favor? Item 3, approve request to open a new bank account to maintain CTE education enhancement funds under Senate Bill 3011. And have Brian Early and John Stricker as authorized signers of the account. Motion by Mr. Dickerson, second by Mr. Howell. Any other discussion?
Memorandum will be signed tonight by Mr. Lee, I believe, Robert. Give it to Mr. Early to send it to the community college board, right? Mr. Lee signs the memorandum of understanding for the board, correct? Then he gets it to you and we send it to the college board.
Yeah, we can make the request. No, they'll fund the money.
They sign.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Takes us to, under Dr. Williams, item L1. Approve Bailey Education Group contract for EL coaching services. A motion for L1.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Dodson. Second by Ms. Peterson. Discussion.
Yes. No, I have a question. I looked at this. Would you just like to give an overview? I believe this is for EL across the district?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. We have 277 EL students. Of those 277, 176 are served. We have had tremendous success, as you can tell by the accountability model. However, we want to continue that success, and by bringing in the Bailey Group, we will be able to hopefully train our teachers and make sure that we have continuity throughout the program. So that's our goal.
Your numbers in the beginning, you said there were 277 students, and how many are concerned?
177. We have the other 101 that will be that have moved from serve to monitor. That is excellent. That's what we want. That's where your accountability points come from. 176 serve, 101 in monitor.
Thank you.
Further questions? Item 2, approve the Base Education LLC contract for Mississippi 6th to 8th grade EMH, NCAD, SOR2 grant for JCSD middle schools. Motion, Ms. Boucher. Ms. Dodson. Discussion?
Okay, so I do have a question about this, Dr. Reeves, explain it to me, we're just accepting a grant, there was $0 on the,
Right, and this is a grant that was offered by the Mississippi Department of Mental Health Services, and it allows for grades 6 through 8 to be serviced, and it will actually provide lessons, character building lessons, and other mental health lessons that would be tailored to those particular students. They actually would participate and complete a diagnostic assessment at the very beginning, and then say, for instance, anger management is their issue, then they're going to have lessons that would be designed to center around improving their anger management issues.
so essentially this curriculum and this program is being granted.
That is correct. That's correct. And all 3 of our middle schools had an opportunity to participate in the demo of this particular program. All of our counselors, hands down, were, excited about the opportunity to have the program. We're focusing this year on building trauma-sensitive schools. And so this just aligned with our entire scope of work this year.
So this is something you applied for?
No, ma'am, I did not. And we actually had them come to us and they notified us of this opportunity, and then I just started orchestrating, making sure that everyone was on board. And I'm not going to say I'm the one that sought out the grant, but the grant came to me.
But you coordinate.
Yes, ma'am.
Very, very well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So our goal is again to make sure that all of our students across K through 12 have an opportunity to really grow as a whole child. And this right here allows for us to add another layer of support to ensure that our students are healthy and whole, socially and emotionally.
Okay. And all 4 percent revisions to policy JGBB supplement scale of the application class 3 instruction manager.
So we basically just combined 2 positions.
That's right.
So go ahead, Dr. Wood.
Oh, you can.
Just a quick question for item L4, which is the revisions to the supplement scale. Are we combining 2 positions here? Policy GGBB, the supplement scale edition of the ESSER 3 construction manager supplement. It's a combination of two positions. Is that
Well, yes, actually in our safe continuity plan, we outlined having a facilities manager for ESSER, and we never filled that position. And I'm gonna deflect you.
So instead of hiring a project manager, basically Dwayne Jones has been doing the job and will continue to do the job for the next 2 years as we complete these ESSER projects. He's working way beyond 40 hours. He's probably closer to 60 hours. So he's the one doing the work right now. This is only going to be for 2 years while the ESSER projects are going on. We all agree, myself, Kim, David, and Ryan, this was the proper way to use the money. This money's already been allocated through the ESSER projects, and so
And from us,
we just need to spend it.
our goal is to, make sure that we have actually followed through with our ESSER plan, and failure to do that, to leave that money in that particular slot without us utilizing it, it's not a good look for our district.
And with ESSER funding going away, we're already, as part of our budget reduction plan, we're having our principals decide what ESSER positions do we want to keep when the ESSER funding goes away. And again, I give credit to Mr. Dickerson that where everyone we hired with ESSER, we told him that when this funding goes away, your job could go away. So for us to hire someone, knowing that ESSER funding is going to go away, that was my angle as far as
what construction manager that we would want that's qualified would say, yeah, I'll take that job, and then in 2 years from now, the money is gone. And so that was also a factor as well.
And the
And then
supplement,
they told me we needed to use that money.
that is correct,
They were like, because that was my standpoint, they're like, well, John, we have to use that money.
that's right. So the supplement allows for us to be able to use it. The supplement will go away in 2024. So, you know, I'm confident that with the additional hours that Mr. Jones is working, we would certainly be getting our money's worth.
Well, he's already done it.
Yeah, he's already.
Saturdays and Sundays,
Right.
probably.
And I can't go back and back pay him any of the, you know, for all of the time that he's worked,
How many
70,
hours?
80.
Begging how many hours?
That's what I'm saying,
Seven
you're probably
to
doing
80
at
hours.
least 60 hours right now.
I get more calls from Dwayne on the weekend than I do anybody else.
It's true.
Your house. But again, I want the board to know that in all seriousness, my main angle was to actually go hire someone for a year and a half, 2 years. Who are you getting? And then they would have to become familiar with the districts. Dwayne Jones is this district.
And I will say this, he did not ask for this. And we did address it with him and told him, this is for 2 years and it's gone when this was gone. Again, he never asked for it, just understand that, please.
Let's just present it.
Yes.
That's the background. Good point.
And it's the right, you know, at this point, he is signing off on documents and, he is expected to review those facilities and to make those reports to Mr. Besson, Dr. Besson, and, to Mr. Baggett as well. And, we have to have that documented, that he is serving as the ESSER personnel. Now, what's going to accompany that is what most of people who work with the federal programs do not like. It is called a personnel activity report. They're calling the PARs. No one likes the PARs. But I have documentation then that you're actually doing what you said you're going to do. So. Thank you.
So, and I hate to be a part of it.
That's all right.
I don't have a problem with this, and I understand you work a lot of hours and you have a hard time compensating, so I can appreciate it, and I can appreciate that. But I've seen him get into a bind on more than one occasion where, you know, this equity and looking at different employee type of positions, you know, they all are kind of, you know, there's certain ones that are comparable to other ones. I would appreciate if you would look, how does this make sense? And how would you know, justify this to another employee who, when it's not an incident from that moment? So I would like to think about, you know, how you would justify this to another person with a similar type position in this district that may not feel the warm to this idea is maybe we are.
And I think the PARS reports will do that because, like Dr. Williams was saying, as with the federal money, we have to do PARS reports to show where he's doing the work that has to be done, above and beyond what his normal scope of work is.
And he will have to show that as a facilities manager, that job scope or that particular job description, he is not only doing that for the district side, but he is also doing that for all 45 ESSER projects as well. And the expectation is that he's having to go out and perform those same duties in addition to the district services.
I just don't want us to get.
I see your point.
Yes,
Don't want us to get, you know, in a bind with some other group of employees.
That might say we're doing the same thing.
Right.
So,
Just to save time for the rest of the items that are under present for Williams, questions on items 5, 6.
yes. And I apologize, I did not bring out either item 9 or item 10, and for some reason, when I moved out of home, I had a link, but I don't have a link right now. Is there a link?
Those are your manuals, your immigrant manual, and then your homeless foster care
both?
Yeah, let's go back.
So. So this is. So, in the introduction, talk about very good and noble goals that are not going to prevent anybody from getting an education. And that's a good thing. However, and I think we should be mindful of, it's a very political thing that is out there in our world, not just in our world, but in our state and county, about the legal profession. And so, I just want to make sure that, I don't think this board or this school district is really the place to be involved in that public debate. That would be my. And so, I would like you to take another look at your introduction and just make sure that you're not weighing in one way or the other in the public debate that is ongoing in our country.
Yes, yes.
That's one thing. On the foster care. So, I don't know a lot about foster care, but I'm learning.
Yes.
I had an opportunity over the last 3 or 4 months to kind of learn about it. And up front, you gave some definitions. And so it's my understanding that foster care, it's like a legal term. A child who is designated by a judge.
Right.
Or they monitor, they have certain monitoring requirements.
Right.
They actually say these parents are eligible to be foster parents.
Yes.
Or who maybe not.
Yes.
And they make sure that those children are placed in a good home that's approved by the court.
Yes.
And so, if possible in here, I would like for you to make sure that our staff, I'm not asking for, a repeat of a state statute or anything like that, but that they understand what a foster child is, that they have been designated by who is a foster child under certain types of limitations. So that all of our staff, they do fully understand and appreciate that this is illegal. This is involving the courts. This is a legal process.
Right.
This isn't, I can't walk in and say, hey, I'm involved in foster, stuff like that, and I just, until I was born to start.
Right, and actually, just to kind of make sure you're understanding the foster care process, students who are in the foster care program are actually, their guardians are actually the Mississippi Child Protective Services. They are not, the foster care parent is not considered a legal guardian. Okay, and so.
Talk some about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if you go down in that process, in that very lengthy document, it does go into, yes, sir. And I know it's, our goal was to give you enough information so that we could appease our federal programs, personnel, and all of the state requirements, as well as to inform, everyone.
It's a wonderful program.
It is.
And some friends of mine, Michelle, are just there on the front end of it. I would encourage people to at least aware.
Yes, sir.
At least aware of that.
Right. And foster care, again, it used to be considered homeless. They were, and that is why it's in the homeless manual. However, students that were awaiting foster care placement were considered homeless. Now, once they have been assigned to a foster care parent, they are considered foster care students who are under the umbrella of the Mississippi Child Protective Services. And so those personnel members are actually the legal guardians according to the, the courts, the chancery court.
They actually, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was still principal, they actually came in to register.
That is correct. And a foster care parent cannot register a student. The Child Protective Service caseworker is required to register those students. And so it is important for even our parents who are reading this document to understand what their rights are. And those are also outlined in
Are they in that?
Yes, sir.
Then-
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, it's very thorough. And I'm going to go back to the immigrant quickly. Right, we only,
The system is just so broken.
it's broken, that is correct. And I'm not gonna say, but did I say that out loud? But ultimately, when we look at the immigrant policy and the EL, those are our English language learners. And our immigrants that come into our district are required to produce documentation. They cannot come into our school district. If you go all the way down in that document, you'll see, we don't let you go past go. You cannot register without 2 proofs of residence.
I saw that. I saw that.
Oh, yes, sir.
It felt like maybe something in the introduction might kind of
Right.
contradict that a little bit.
Right, well, we can't circumvent what the law states, but based on our board policy, we follow board policy. Board policy, along with state policy, requires us to have a registration procedure. And we have that registration procedure in place for EL students, homeless students, immigrant students, and foster care students. And we follow that policy, all policies to the T. So I can assure you, we follow those policies.
Thank
you. Yes, sir.
Let me ask one more question before you go. I know there are protections in place to protect the personal information of a child. For instance, it's in Child Protective Services. At the same time, our teachers who are in place have to be able to teach the student based on their situation.
Right.
And I know Joy mentioned, Joy's very familiar with the process in fostering, but there are teachers that may have students who are in the Child Protection Service and not even know that. Is that correct? Is that a
Yes,
statement?
yes, that is
And
correct.
so that can alter a child's ability to have forms signed by their parent coming into class. And I've just heard instances where that's been a real problem for the child. And I don't think that's anything.
Right, and I can say that if that is the case, it has not come across my desk in this district. All of our students who may be in various types of protective services, because you have to also consider domestic violence and other, students and parents who are maybe in shelters. We work with those shelters to make sure that they obtain their 2 proofs and that we follow the law so that those students can still be enrolled, but we pretty much protect their identification and the information that those students have in our SAM system. So it is, there's something called FERPA, and so with FERPA, we make sure that PII information is not in the wrong hands, that it's not presented or allowed to be accessed by people who should not access it. So
just kind of follow up on that. So what organization notifies you what children in our district are in foster care or any of these other protected custody? What organization notifies you, and how frequently is that updated, and how do you let those teachers know?
Okay, so what happens is, just say, let's start with foster care. Your Child Protective Service Department will notify the school initially of a student who is in foster care. So that is your initial contact, because those students will not have some of the same documents initially that maybe another student who has a legal guardian or custodial parent coming in to register them. For example, a birth certificate. They may be missing a birth certificate or a shot records or something like that. But we will work with them. We have a policy in place where they have at least 30 days to produce those documents. But again, we have to have those documents. So what we do is work with them to help them obtain those documents. Now, foster care is a different group. So when we look at homeless students, they still have protective rights that we have to enroll these students, but we also have to make sure that they're actually homeless. So we go through a series of questions and a series of an interview of sorts to make sure that these students are indeed homeless according to the homeless and McKinney-Vento law. Okay, so we just don't take a person's word and say, okay, you're homeless based off of, because a lot of people know that term, McKinney-Vento. So we do not allow you to go, again, pass go, unless you have the proper documentation. And even our homeless students produce 2 proofs of residence, or they produce some sort of documentation that would suffice for the state to ensure that you are, a student who should be in the Jackson County School District. Okay. EL, it's an entirely different beast, because an English language learner, they're only identified as an English language learner because they have a home language survey that tells us that they speak a language other than English at home. That's the only way to identify that particular group of people. But they have to meet the same criteria as any other student that enters into our district. So, immigrant, same thing.
So then you maintain a database?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we submit those reports to the state monthly to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. Every school reports that information
So
to
you
us.
reach out and make sure that teacher understands the
Yes.
situation?
Depending on the situation. There are certain situations that the counselor will be made privy to, the administrator will be made privy to. But unless the student starts to have academic struggles, that teacher may not necessarily be aware of some of those background issues. But we have to keep confidentiality at the forefront of any of our, when we're working with students who may be in a particular custodial situation. Yes, sir. Okay.
I was just gonna say, it all goes through the counselor's office.
That is correct.
So often the principal doesn't even know the foster care situations. We might know a foster care family has children, and so we know the kids, but we don't know the circumstances.
That's right.
It kind of makes it a safe place for the kids where they don't feel like everybody knows. And speaking from personal, my grandchildren went through something very horrible, and I do not want everybody to know. That became a personal conversation.
All of our counselors are trained in the ASCA model, the American School Counselor Association ethical standards, and we do not breach confidentiality. There are certain circumstances that would allow for that, but we do not do that or share that information with individuals who are not who are on a need-to-know basis. We keep those issues confidential for a reason.
To me, the big struggle, my biggest fear is that there was an instance where there was a child in some child protective services in class who didn't come in with their signed report card and was sent to the principal's office crying because they didn't have a signed report card, didn't want to explain to the teacher that. And so that's the biggest struggle to me, are those kids that want to maintain the confidentiality, but even their teacher can't support them in an emotional that.
Right.
And
But there should be someone on the campus who is aware of that student's issue.
She's already crying going to the principal's office and
Yeah.
making a scene about not having a parent, so
Right.
there you go.
Right. And so at that point, hopefully, and it is my hope that the school counselor was brought into that situation to help to diffuse that and to make everyone who needed to be aware of the situation aware of the situation. But we do have
CPS so they can talk to them.
Right, because you can't just,
It's a struggle.
yes, it's just struggle. Yes, and, but we will address, again, all of those issues, begin with our school counselor, and then they end with those people who need to be made aware of the situation. Okay.
Thank you.
It's tough. I mean, it's a tough situation because you want that teacher. That teacher's there. They will keep that.
Yes.
maybe, you know, some stability in the child's life. You know, they don't know, and I understand they can't. So I,
Right, and unless, like I said, we follow the law. So when we follow the law, we don't do part of the law, we gotta do the entire law.
I,
Yes, sir. Yes. We're gonna take care of that, I promise, I promise. Okay,
Thanks, thank you.
thank you.
Okay. That takes us down to, well, touch this real quick, M30, present 2023 school board calendar. Questions on calendar. We just have to vote on it. Just make sure everybody has to look at that. Down to 16 section leases. Item M34B, which is approved Mississippi Forestry Commission authorization for services for 16.5S 7 West. I have a motion for 34B.
Motion.
Second by Mr. Peterson. This is just the urban enforcement commission, do what they do. Good.
we're not building a road.
No, they're shoring up what's out there, got washed out. These requests are typically done annually in July. This is after the recent rain we had, I think back in August.
The forest,
Yeah,
forestry
Sam
commission
Morgan,
does that.
Sam Morgan, has put this request for us, to get this approved. And it would be at our cost, our expense.
How much we?
It wasn't much.
$600.
$600.
Oh, okay, all right, I got it.
$600 to do it. These are just dirt roads, right?
Yes.
Understand.
Question? All in favor? Uh, 34C, approve Jackson County Board of Supervisors request to construct a new covered arena and various improvements at One Columbus Park. Motion. Mr. Dickerson. Second by Ms. Peterson. Discussion. All in favor? No. Take us down to the newly added item M20, which is the NASA conference travel request. Do I have a motion for that? Motion by Mr. Dickerson. Second. Mr. Howell. Discussion. All in favor? No. And we need a motion to approve consent agenda items. Motion by Ms. Peterson.
Second.
Second by Ms. Dawson.
My understanding was
Yes.
It was on the
that
consent.
it was,
I believe it was.
that was understanding, but we needed to pass it, but we needed some protection. People who grandfathered in and the program, there need to be some procedures in place,
You hear that, Kristen?
maybe directly by the superintendent
That's item
to cover those situations.
That's item G3 for policy PJ. So we need to add language that says that any.
Well, we've got some recommended language, we may want to look at it a little bit more closely, but I mean, it's all good except for we need to put something in there to cover those people that are grandfathered in as to who would be their superior.
So we need to remove G3 from consent agenda. It's on consent.
It's on consent. We haven't approved consent agenda.
I make a motion to remove item
G3 for consent.
G3 from.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dickerson, second by Ms. Peterson to remove G3 from consent. All in favor? So now we have a motion and a second on the table.
And I would also like to, make a motion to amend the consent agenda to remove item N, remove item N11, which we have removed from the agenda. It was on the consent.
So it's Dawson, second by Mr. Dickerson, seconds on favor. Now back to the original motion to approve the consent agenda.
So now, I make the motion to,
Wait, we gotta get past the consent agenda.
oh,
We'll go back, we'll circle back to G3.
we're,
So let's vote on the consent agenda items. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, it's 5-0. Now we go back to item G3, which was taken off the consent agenda. So we need a motion and a second for G3.
Motion?
Motion by Ms. Dobson, second by Ms. Peterson. Now discussion on nepotism policy.
Let me just say this, we do have some language, so maybe we can go ahead and get it. Yeah, where we would add the following language to, not paragraph 4, but paragraph 3, right? Just be able to make sure,
Well, I was gonna say 4, because that's where it talks about grandfather and people. But it doesn't matter, we can make it less.
That's good.
the one I'm looking at, paragraph 2's canceled out, so,
Oh.
so that's why I'm saying it's paragraph 3.
Okay.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
I can't count.
So, in paragraph 3, we change it to those situations that are in conflict with provisions of this policy which exist as of the date of approval of this policy shall be allowed to continue until such time that natural attrition creates changes in the status of those employees. Superintendent, we would add this language. The superintendent shall implement a procedure to address the chain of command for any existing employee conflicts that are grandfathered in at the time the policy is adopted. And then we continue on. However, all new hires will be subject to the policy. And so that will allow us to put those procedures in there so that the motion to adopt it, subject to the addition of the language that I just read, which I'll provide.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Mr. Dickerson, second by Ms. Dobson to modify item G3 to include language stated
To establish
to establish procedures for grandfathered employees. On favor of the amendments? No. Now to G3. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor of G3? Yep, that's good. Thank you for catching that. Need a motion to enter into executive session to discuss legal and personnel.
Motion?
Motion by Ms. Dobson. Second by Ms. Howell. And Justin, all in favor? No. Thank you, everyone.